Say in Bentching, who Noisen Lecehem or he gives bread. And we spoke before, lechem doesn't mean just bread, but all sustenance. It's needed l'chol basar to all flesh. Kilo oilam chaste. Right? Now this nusach, this is lifted straight from a pasuk in Tehillim, which we say every Shabbos in Pesukei de Zimra. We say it in Hallel on Pesach night. Noisen Lechem l'chol basar, kilo oilam chaste. And then we continue, and you'll see how well it ties together. Uvtuvay hagadol, and due to his great goodness, Tamid, always, constantly, Yechsar Lanu, we're not past tense lacking. And then we ask about kasha, Vael Yahsar Lanu Mazayin La'olam Vayed, and that we not be lacking any food, sustenance, any bread in the future either. So first we spoke about HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives with his chesed, and then we say that his greatness we were never lacking, and we ask that we continue like that. It's very interesting, because on the pasuk of Noisen Lecehem l'chol basar kilo olam chastei, the Gemara Psachim Daf Kuf Yud Ches brings a memra that says Amar Rav Shizvi. Amar Rav Shizvi Mishmei der Belazar ben Azariah. Rav Shizvi says the name of Belazar ben Azariah. Kosher mizaynaisav shel Adam kikriyas yamsov. It's as difficult for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to make sure that everybody has food, just like kriyas yamsov. The ksiv Noisen Lecehem l'chol basar, because of the pasuk of Noisen Lecehem l'chol basar, the samach lay, and it's next to the pasuk of l'geizer yamsov l'gzarim, and a couple of psukim later it says l'geizer yamsov l'gzarim kilo olam chazdei. So it puts food and kriyas yamsov as nisim next to each other to show that the two are as difficult. But if you look in the Yalkut Shimoni, now before we get to the Yalkut Shimoni, we'll understand why we're going to this Yalkut Shimoni. Davud Raham and the Rebbe Yakar explain that how do we understand what we're saying, Uvtuvay hagadol Tamid lo Yechsar Lanu, that we were tamid, we were not lacking in food. So he explains, the Avud Raham explains, and the Rebbe Yakar, other Rishonim explain, that what were we referring to? Remember, we spoke about Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the nusach of this bracha. So Moshe Rabbeinu said that just like during those 40 years in the Midbar, we weren't lacking. Because we can't say Tamid lo Yechsar Lanu that now, Klal Yisrael could say we were never lacking. We know that in the Teichacha, one of the klalos of the Teichacha is that we're going to be so starved that the Nashim are going to eat their children, right? And we know that in Eicha it came to be. Yidei Nashim Rachmanis Bishli Yadehem, right? In Tercham Nashim Piriam Eilai we say in Eicha, right? So there's been much starvation throughout our years and goals. But Moshe Rabbeinu said that just like during the 40 years in the Midbar, there was no lack of food. So there's a bakasha of Al Yahsar Lanu Mazayin La'olam Vayed. And Davud Raham explains, and other Rishonim, that what's this request of Al Yahsar Lanu Mazayin La'olam Vayed? So he says, bakasha hi al sheim lo Yechsar lachmai. It's a pasuk in Yeshaya Perik Nun Aleph Yudal, pasuk Yudal, that says, Mi hartzoya li pasek v'lo yomos l'shachas, and v'lo Yechsar lachmai, and that we shouldn't be lacking any food. And it's interesting, the Yalkut Shimoni on this pasuk in Yeshaya Nun Aleph says, Amar Rav Shizvi, which is the same Tana, or Amar in the Gemara, that B'Shem Rebbe Belazar ben Azariah, Kasher mizaynaisav shel Adam kekriyas yamsov, that it's difficult to feed people like creating the miracle of kriyas yamsov. Shenama mi hartzoya li pasech lo Yechsar lachmai. And it says afterwards in two psukim later in Yeshaya, that Hashem says that just like, right, Yeshaya says, right, that brings that Kadosh Baruch Hu says that you're not going to be lacking food. You don't believe me? I split the sea. So you see that Kadosh Baruch Hu put splitting the sea together with feeding Klal Yisrael. So what's interesting, what comes out here is that these two Gersayos in Rav Shizvi, where he learned it out from, or two Gersayos, or two different places he learned it out from, we put together those two psukim that both teach us that Kriyas Yamsuf is a grace and ness, a big miracle that we know about. That so too HaKadosh Baruch Hu giving us food is such a big ness. Now you might say, why is the ness of Kriyas Yamsuf on the same level as giving us food? Food we look so natural, right? We have a natural order of how to do things. But if you recall, we spoke about that the biggest bרכת is to be able to earn our own food, to get our own food, and not to require it through chesed and rachamim. Which means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to make it natural. One of the big nisim of Kriyas Yamsuf was the fact that it looked natural, right? If not, if it didn't look natural and it looked, then the Mitzrayim right away would have seen that it was a miracle being done for the Yidden, and they probably wouldn't have just jumped in. But why did they? Because to them it looked like it was natural the way it split, and if it's natural the way it split, it should keep on splitting, not necessarily fall back on them. They didn't see a miracle. So too, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in every single day of creating our miracles, for our food, what does He do? He makes it look natural. He makes it look like we earned it. We have a job. He makes it look like we get it through a natural means, even though it's so much done through the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu.